Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. I am Keith Eiser. I will be filling in for Stevie today and actually taking you through the end of the week here. We have an 8-game MLB slate here for Wednesday evening. Joining the show to help me break it all down is TJZwarych. TJ, how are you doing today?
Doing very well. Telling you pre-show, a little tired, had a busy day today, but still ready to dive into and break down these 8 games we got cooking for Wednesday here. It's a busy week with a lot of brand new television dropping this week. So I've been busy with Agents of Fandom, busy with new baby things, but it's all good things I enjoy doing. So not going to complain.
Busy life. We got to get through it though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like jam-packed with things, but there's nothing that I'm doing right now that I would not want to be doing. So like it's all good stuff.
Pretty nice, right? We're pretty fortunate to be able to do the things that we do. Did you get to play any DFS on Tuesday night?
Yeah, and I was looking at the scores and stuff, and like genuinely I thought I was going to be doing a lot better than I currently am when I opened up the DraftKings app. Like I assumed the Yankees would end up being like they were one of my highest owned stacks, so I'm not sure why I wasn't doing very well. But I'm currently not. So I'm making back like 20% of my entry fees. So hopefully some of that'll go up, but I'm really not sure why I'm not doing better. Highest owned pitchers were Skeen, Varland, and Diaz, and then I got like highest owned bats are Aaron Judge, and I got a ton of Schwarber, so I'm not actually sure why it's not going well.
Ton of Schwarber worked out pretty nicely for you. No Miles Michaelis for you. Did you see what he did against the Pirates?
No Miles Michaelis. So I'm wondering if that's why. I got no.
I don't
Michaelis.
know if anybody else. I don't know if anybody else played him though. Really either. Cal Quantrill had a really nice game also, but I don't know. We'll see. Outside of the Yankees, there really hasn't been much offense out there, so we'll see what happens with these later games. A couple of good stacks still to play yet. All right, let's go ahead and break down this Wednesday slate. 8 games, like we mentioned. First game on the schedule, we have the Philadelphia Phillies at the Boston Red Sox. Christopher Sanchez goes for the Phillies. He is a minus 156 favorite. 8-run total in this game, opposed on the other side by Chris Pavetta for the Red Sox. Any interest here in Christopher Sanchez?
Yeah, I think so. Going up against the Red Sox, they got a lot of strikeouts in that offense. Sanchez has got upside. He'll sometimes go up over 100 pitches. I don't mind going up against him. I would prefer this game to not be in Boston. But having said that, the Boston lineup is just not someone I'm fearful of. So I don't mind Sanchez at 8K at all.
Yeah, I don't mind him either. A lot of strikeouts in this Red Sox offense, especially against left-handed pitching. So I'm with you there. It's a reasonable price tag. Sanchez, I thought he was going to take a step forward with the strikeouts this year. Hasn't really been the case this year, but I think the matchup bumps him up enough. He's 21% on the season, but Boston's one of the higher strikeout teams against lefties. So I'm with you. Definitely playable. Nick Pivetta is a really interesting case on the other side. He's priced all the way up at 9,300 over on DraftKings. Any interest here against a potent Phillies offense?
Like Pivetta, I basically will always play if I'm running a lot of lineups because the upside is so high with the strikeout stuff. Like he's not always on, and when he's on, he usually gets rocked for a couple home runs. But the strikeout stuff is good enough that I always kind of want to play him. But this Philly team is just not the offense that I want to play people against. 2 people in the projected lineup with strikeout rates over 20%. One of them Sosa, who might not even be in the lineup. Like it's tough to want to play anybody against the Phillies.
Yeah, I'm with you. Same feeling on Pavetta. I love his upside. I love playing him in DFS. His strikeout rate is up to 31%. It was lagging behind last season, earlier on this year, but he is right back in line with what he did last season when he took a major step forward with the strikeouts. So I think there's upside here. It's a scary matchup. No real Muto for that Phillies team now that he landed on the IL, but there's still still a very deep and powerful lineup. So tough spot for him, tough ballpark to pitch in as well. There's 2 other pitchers, one right below him and one a little bit above him that I think are going to be a lot more popular. So maybe he's low owned in the spot and he's a fine tournament play. So even against a dangerous Phillies team, I think you can gamble a little bit on the strikeout upside. How about bats in this game? Any interest here in Philly bats against Pavetta?
Yeah, I'll just skip ahead briefly and say I have no interest in Boston outside of, I have no interest in Boston. So we can get that right out of the way because I'm not going to be playing them. But Philly, I do have a lot more interest in because even though Pavetta is a very good strikeout pitcher, he does give up some hard contact as well. This is a good park for hitters, and Philly's one of the best offenses in baseball. So I will be still getting some Phillies. They are expensive, and so obviously we'll have to find some cheap pitching throughout the slate to be able to make it work in terms of a full stack. But I think we'll be able to do that on this slate. At least there's no Sonny Gray is the only pitcher over 10K today, so I don't think it'll be too hard to get these guys in.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Boston stuff, especially if Tyler O'Neill is out of that lineup again. If O'Neill is in there, I don't hate taking some shots on him for a home run. They just don't have a lot else. Connor Wong would be a cheap catcher that I possibly have interest. No interest in the stack, though. Sanchez has been a really solid pitcher this year. Against Pavetta, I think you can certainly hunt home runs, and certainly in this ballpark. He gives up power to both sides of the plate historically, so I'm not picky about righties and lefties. Philly is really expensive, like you mentioned, so it is tough to get a full stack in there, but certainly don't mind chasing some home runs here. Harper, Schwarber, obviously great. I don't even mind Alec Boehm at that price. He's been outstanding this year. Who's going to catch for him? Was it Stubbs on Wednesday night? It's probably him again. Just a cheap catching option, nothing to get excited about. If Dahl is in the lineup, he's still cheap. $3K for David Dahl. I wouldn't hate that. Next game on the slate,
it was Stubbs who pitched on Tuesday.
Yeah. Next game is the Cleveland Guardians at the Cincinnati Reds in Great American Ballpark here. Cleveland is a slight -104 favorite. 9 is the run total again in this game. Fell short of that. At least last I checked, it was short of that on Tuesday night. Stronger pitchers here. We have Tanner Bybee going for the Guardians, Nick Lodolo on the other side for the Reds. A couple of pretty good pitchers here. Any interest in Bybee?
Yeah, I think so. The Reds are a great offense, and it's a great ballpark, but they also strike out a lot. And so Tanner Bybee has been a very solid strikeout pitcher throughout the year. Much worse against lefties than he is righties, and there is some power lefties here. So that definitely is something we are worried about with Friedel and Dela Cruz and Candelario, Fraley. But I'm still playing Bybee because I think the upside is very high against this team. 25-ish percent strikeout rate we're probably looking at with that lineup. So I do think he's worth a few shots, but it is very scary with we're probably going to see Steer, Stevenson, and India. And those are the only righties in the lineup. And when you look at his stats just against lefties, all of a sudden he's not that great of a fantasy pitcher anymore. So that worries me. I think there's a lot of downside, but the upside's there too.
Yeah, I will be chasing the strikeout upside here. Cincinnati does have a lot of swing and miss in the lineup. I even played a little Tristan McKenzie on Tuesday night. He did okay. Nothing that helped me out in tournaments by any means. But Bybee at 8,800 has been really solid here recently. Was off to begin the season for a couple of starts. He's really turned it around here lately. I don't mind picking on Cincinnati with some strikeouts. I do agree. Anytime a pitcher's going into Great American, it's always a risky roster, I will say, just because there's so much home run potential there for the offense. But I do like Bybee. I'll be taking some shots in tournaments for sure. Lodolo on the other side, priced up against a pretty decent Guardians offense.
Yeah, I never really liked playing pitchers against the Guardians. They're not the same super low strikeout lineup that they have been in the past. There are guys that will that strike out in that lineup now. But still, Lodolo's priced up, and it's I would love to just be able to avoid the 9K plus range today. It's just I don't really know if I'll be able to, outside of one player that we'll get to, of course. But if he wasn't such a high upside pitcher, I would love to just avoid it in the matchup. But it's very similar to a Pavetta, and it's very similar to a Bybee, but not quite as bad of a matchup as Pavetta, where he's just been really good and the upside is high. The strikeout rate is good. I think we do have to have interest in Lodolo, despite playing against a very good team, very good offense.
Yeah, the price tag is a little bit challenging for me to get to. Vibey on the other side is a lot cheaper. Pavetta is a little bit cheaper. I think I'd lean to Pavetta over Lodolo, and I think both of them are going to be low owned. We've already talked about 3 pitchers in this range that we like. Then there's 2 more at least on the slate coming, and we're going to have interest there. Spoiler alert. I don't know that I get to Lodolo. I'm with you that he's a high upside pitcher. The strikeout rate is good. He's been limiting walks as well, but Cleveland's not a fun team to pick on. They make a bunch of contact. They don't strike out very much, and they've added a little more power. It's come with a little more strikeouts than last season, like you mentioned. But this Cleveland offense is really good and more powerful than I think a lot of people realize. So I think I'm out on Lodolo. It's coming into lock tomorrow. I'll probably be making a decision on Lodolo or Pavetta, and I'll probably just play one of those guys. But I think there's upside on either side. I like it slightly better for Pavetta, I think. How about bats here? Any interest in Guardians bats?
Not really, no. Just David Fry and Jose Ramirez. I think that would basically be it going up against Lodolo. And for what it's worth, like I agree. I think I'd have Bibee ahead of him. I would probably go Lodolo a bit ahead of Pavetta, but it might not matter at times because it's like you said, there's guys even better that are we're going to be coming up on here as well. Probably no bats for me against Lodolo. And on the other side, though, Cincinnati going up against Bibee, I will play those lefties. I think especially if they're going to be low owned, I really like Dela Cruz, Friedel, Candelario. Even if it's a mini stack, I like the lefties a lot.
Cleveland side for me, I have interest in Ramirez and Fry like you. There's some cheaper guys here. I wouldn't hate a 3-man stack just because it's a massive ballpark upgrade for these Cleveland bats. Somebody like Tyler Freeman, I would have some interest in. Let's see, like their platoon bats aren't as exciting against a lefty as they are when they're facing a righty. Like I don't mind playing some Arias, I guess would be the cheap platoon bat that you'd be looking at. Probably more of a 3-man, and it's definitely going to include Ramirez and Fry. I don't mind Naylor lefty, but he's priced up. Lodolo is really tough on lefties. So I'd probably be looking cheaper for my third piece. Freeman is the guy that stands out most to me. And agree on the Cincinnati side, like you're looking at those lefties. Friedel and Fraley are certainly in the mix. Candelario has been much better here recently, or getting all the way up for Ellie De La Cruz. Certainly chasing some home runs here. Bibee's good enough where I don't know if I want to stack it, even though it's an awesome ballpark for hitting. Cleveland's bullpen is really good as well. So probably more of a mini stack on the Cincinnati side for me as well. It's odd. Like feel like we should have more interest in a game in Great American Ballpark, but I trust the pitching here in this spot.
And then the next game we got coming up, it's like the polar opposite situation where the ballpark sucks. The bats we probably don't want to play, but the pitching suggests maybe we should.
Yeah, let's talk about it. We've got the Miami Marlins at the New York Mets, minus 176. The Mets are favored at minus 176. 7.5 run total in the game. Braxton Garrett going for the Marlins. David Peterson, the home pitcher for the Mets. Let's start here with the away pitcher, Braxton Garrett. Any interest at 7,100?
No. Literally the only reason I would consider it would be that one ceiling game that he had a few games ago. But no, I don't want to play Braxton Garrett.
Yeah, tough spot here. Nice ballpark to pitch in, like you said, but strikeouts are below average at 21%. He has done a nice job of limiting walks, but he's been getting beat up a little bit here recently. The Mets are strong enough, that just enough power in the lineup. They don't strike out very much. I am off of Braxton Garrett as well. How about David Peterson on the other side here, all the way down at 6,300?
It's like he's cheap enough, and it's Miami, so yes, I will play David Peterson. Got up to 81 and 86 pitches in the 2 games he's played this year. Not a lot in terms of strikeouts, but a lot of ground balls. He's playing Miami. It's a good pitcher's park. I think $6,300 David Peterson. He could skate his way through 6 or 7 innings pretty much unscathed. I could see happening here.
Yeah, I think it's a very good run prevention spot for Peterson. Pitch count has been in the 80s in both of his starts. So I think that's about what you're looking at, 85 pitches or so. Maybe there's upside for 90. I don't think he's going to go super deep. So I think you're hoping for 6 innings. The strikeouts jumped off the page at me when I was digging into this game a little bit. He's only got a 10% strikeout rate on the season. He was above average last year. I don't remember. It was like 24 or 25% were his strikeouts last season. So I was digging into that a little bit. His swinging strike rate is the same as his strikeout rate. It's 10%. That generally you have a strikeout rate that's double, a little over double your swinging strike rate. So like he hasn't wrapped up the strikeouts, but the swinging strike rate is still there. So I think that he has potential to start racking up way more strikeouts than he has so far. Miami might not be the spot where it happens, just because they're a high contact offense, but more strikeouts are coming for David Peterson. I think he's too cheap for this matchup. So I'm totally with you there. Quite a bit of interest here, actually, as a cheap guy on this slate. I apologize. There's like some power washing going on. I don't know if you can hear that.
That was the really first time that I heard it there. It wasn't coming in before, but that just now I did hear it for the first time.
I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Hopefully that cuts out because it's incredibly distracting. Sorry about that, guys.
Somebody's trying to break into your house with water. That's their tool of choice to get in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, bats in this game. Tough ballpark to hit in. Any interest in Marlins here?
Nope.
Yeah, just there's not much talent on this lineup. Jazz is lefty, who's clearly their best hitter. I don't hate chasing home runs from Brian De La Cruz or Jake Berger, but I'm definitely not stacking in this tough ballpark. It's not even a great ballpark to chase home runs in either.
Yeah, like they're a team you can consider. I think if you want to play Sonny Gray with one of like Waddolo or Miller or something like that, where you're playing a 9K pitcher and a 10K pitcher and you need a super cheap stack, then maybe you play Josh Bell, De La Cruz, and Berger and hope they can turn the clocks back and hit righties like we've seen them do in the past, kind of thing.
Yep. Any interest in the Mets side here?
Not a full stack, but mini stack of the Mets against Garrett. I think I'm interested in. Get a little Alonso and Lindor, pick one of Marte or Martinez to go with. No full stack here, but I'll play their top end guys.
Yeah, I have some interest here. I don't love the ballpark, but certainly Pete Alonso against the lefty, I have a lot of interest in. Kind of ditto for Francisco Lindor. Vientos has been really good since they called him up. He's only 3,600, so I really like getting that cheap piece with them. Oh my goodness. This is like really, really distracting. I might have to run out there and tell him to knock it off for a couple minutes so we can finish up here. But yeah,
you can barely hear it on our end if that is some
it is
consolation.
Like so loud for me. I'm sorry. It's really distracting. But yeah, I'm with you. I like the call on the mini stack here. Marte and Martinez are just a little bit too cheap for what they offer. Next game here, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates at the St. Louis Cardinals. Minus 142 favorites for the Cardinals here. That can't be right. I think I wrote that down. They have to be bigger favorites than that. Sonny Gray is going for the Cardinals and Bailey Falter for the Pirates. Any interest here in Bailey Falter?
I don't want to have any interest in Bailey Falter. Like if you game log watch a little bit, he's put up some decent scores. He doesn't walk anybody, but he doesn't strike anybody out either, and he gets hit hard to both sides of the plate. St. Louis has been playing a lot better lately. I don't think I can get to any Bailey Falter.
Yeah, and I don't have any interest in Bailey Falter either. Just not enough strikeouts. The St. Louis offense has really turned it around. They've been outstanding here over the last 30 days or so. Minus 175 are the Cardinals as favorites because Sonny Gray is on the mound. You have to have some interest here. Strikeouts are way up, 32.8% on the season. Solid matchup here against the Pirates. He is rightfully priced up at about $10,000. So any interest here for you in Sonny Gray?
Yeah, I think he's the top raw points pitcher on the slate going up against a Pittsburgh team that just got lit up by Miles Michaelis, of all people. I wish they would let him go a little bit deeper into games. Hasn't gone over 90 pitches since April. But despite a couple of not so great games as of late, I do still think Sonny Gray is the top pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Love that strikeout rate. Not scared of this Pittsburgh offense. So I'm with you. Sonny Gray's the top pitcher on the slate. He's definitely worth spending up for. How about the bats on the other side here? How about bats against Sonny Gray? Let's start there. Any interest in Pittsburgh bats against Sonny Gray?
No, not at all. Even on slate's not very big, but I still don't want to go there.
Yeah, no interest for me either. Not picking on the best pitcher on the slate. How about St. Louis on the other side here against Bailey Falter?
Yeah, I think so. Mason Wynn leading off, nice and cheap. That's like I don't want. I get they've been putting up more runs, but I still just don't really want to play these guys. The numbers look so bad. Mason Wynn, sure. Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman in the lefty-lefty matchup, and he's actually been smashing lefties and in a small sample size over the last 2 years. Falter's actually given up more hard contact to lefties than righties. So I don't mind. I think I like the mini stack here best. Some Gorman, some Mason Wynn, and then, pick one of Burleson, Goldschmidt, Arenado, either a young guy who hasn't done much yet or an old guy who's over the hill.
Yeah, I don't like how this St. Louis lineup sets up against lefties near as much as I do against righties, but I still have interest in a stack here. Falter just doesn't make a lot of guys swing and miss. So I think St. Louis can put it together here. Goldschmidt and Arenado, I think, are going to start hitting here eventually. They're both too cheap if they revert back to anything close to what they've been in their careers. 4,100 for Goldschmidt, Arenado at 4K. So I have a ton of interest in those guys. Love the win call. He's cheap. He's been leading off. Might see Donovan in there, lefty. He's cheap enough. I'm trying to think of who there. Dylan Carlson is the cheapie who could be in there against the lefty at 2,300. If he grabs a solid lineup spot, even if he's like sixth, he could hit as high as second in this order, I believe. But Dylan Carlson at 2,300, I think is a fine option as well.
Yeah, I like that call.
All right, let's go ahead and keep on moving here. Next game, we have the New York Yankees at the Kansas City Royals. Yankees are minus 144 favorites. 9.5 is the total in the game, highest on the slate. Cody Poteet going for the Yankees. Daniel Lynch on the other side. Any interest here in Poteet at 6,900?
I'm going to defer to you here because I truthfully know nothing about Poteet, and you look at his early numbers in the MLB, and he gives up a ton of ground balls to one side, good, but he doesn't strike out any lefties, and then he'll strike out a ton of righties, but he'll get hit hard. But like the hard hits are more on the ground ball. I don't know. It's weird, and it's a limited sample, so I'm not going to read into it. But I know nothing about Mr. Poteet, and I just know I'd never really liked playing pitchers against the Royals.
Yeah, so if you look at his top line numbers, he looks like he's been incredible. He has been incredible. But if you dig under the hood a little bit, there's some major regression coming here for this fella. Strikeouts look okay at 18%. It's below average, but he's cheap enough where I would still consider him. 172 is his ERA. His xERA is 5.48. His Sierra looks a little bit better, but 4.17. Still a below average number. He's just getting ultra lucky. His BABIP on the season is 209. If you're unfamiliar with the BABIP statistic, the major league average is somewhere around 300. So he's like 100 points lower than league average in BABIP. His home run to fly ball has actually been reasonable, and he has proven to be a lower BABIP guy in his career over the last 2 seasons, small sample stuff, but 234 and 244. So he might actually have some ability to limit BABIP compared to the league average. But 209 is just a crazy number. He also has a 91% strand rate. That means that 91% of the base runners that get on base do not score. That's an insanely unsustainable number. Major league average on that is like 75%. So he is getting incredibly lucky. The Royals, I'm with you. I think that they're a very solid offense, and I don't like trying to pick on them. They make enough contact. They have enough power. All that to say, I'm out on Cody Poteet. I think the regression monster is coming pretty hard for him, and it might be here against the Royals.
Very fun name, though.
Yeah, and Poteet. I mean, he's a talented
Poteet is
guy.
Fun to
say. It is. He's got some skills. The ground balls, like you mentioned. I think there's a few more strikeouts in there as well, but he's been super lucky this season so far. Daniel Lynch on the other side. I'm pretty sure I know your answer here.
Nope.
Potent. Yeah. There's nothing to talk about here. Daniel Lynch has been awful. The Yankees have been the best offense in baseball. Tell me which Yankees we're playing here today.
All of them, every one of them, each and up and down the lineup. Aaron Judge is the top bat on the slate, like he is most nights. And I think the Yankees are the top stack on the slate. Obviously, we don't have all the totals yet. I don't know where each implied team total is going to be, but I have a tough time thinking that the Yankees going up against Daniel Lynch, anybody's going to be higher than that. Who is pitching for Texas? Just to see for the John Gray. No, there's no way that the Dodgers will have a higher total than the Yankees. They're the top offense on the slate. Aaron Judge is the priority, but even Soto in the lefty. Volpe, Stanton, Torres is getting more expensive, but he's also hitting the ball better lately. Whole team.
Yeah, best stack on the slate for sure. Highest team total on the slate for sure. Judge is the top hitter on the slate. Love Volpe leading off. Paying $6K for Soto in a lefty is never ideal. So I don't even mind leaving Soto out of a Yankee stack. Stanton looks outstanding at 4,600. He has not actually been as good against lefties this season, but in his career, he is absolutely raked against lefties. So I'm just looking at this as a little bit of a discount on Giancarlo Stanton at 4,600. Love the Torres call as well, 4,200. LeMahieu, stack only for me type of guy. If Trevino's in there at catcher instead of Wells, I like him as a 3K catcher. But yeah, this is the top team on the slate for sure. I don't think it's all that close even. Royals bats on the other side. I mentioned some regression might be coming here for Poteet. You going to take any shots on the Royals?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if we got like an MJ Melendez batting fifth again here, going up against a guy who doesn't really strike anybody out on the left side. Sign me up, because like all of Poteet's strikeouts so far have been coming to guys on the right side of the plate. Obviously, it's a small sample size, but Melendez, even though it kind of seems like he hasn't done anything, he still has a 220 ISO against right-handed pitching this year. So MJ Melendez, either as a one-off salary saver, would be my favorite, but I do like the full stack as well. They're affordable. You get either like you play a little Blanco, Melendez, Velasquez, and all of a sudden it's not that hard to play Bobby Witt with Pasquantino or Garcia. So Kansas City is probably my second favorite stack that we've gone through so far behind the Yankees.
Yeah, I love that Melendez call. He's a guy that I'll always play against a righty because of that power that you mentioned. He's always cheap. Yeah, he strikes out too much, but that doesn't matter. Like in DFS, a ground ball is the same as a strikeout. So give me the power upside for sure. Love that call. With Renfroe on the IL as well, like I think you might see they called up Prado and Drew Waters. If either of those guys are in there, they're both lefties. Wouldn't hate cheap shots on either of those guys. Pasquantino is definitely the top guy here at 4,700. But you can play Bobby Witt in any matchup. You can play Sal Perez in any matchup. So I'm with you. Strong interest in the Royals for me as well. Next game on the slate here, we have the Los Angeles Angels coming out to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are minus 158 favorites in this game. 9 is the run total here. Jose Soriano going for the Angels. Slade Ciccone going for the Diamondbacks. Any interest here in Jose Soriano at 7,500?
Arizona's been playing better recently, but I actually do still have some interest in Soriano. He's a guy that can get mid-90s pitches. He's fairly cheap. Arizona is not as good as they were last year. I think I can take some shots on Soriano. I don't love it, but he is probably my second favorite cheap pitcher behind David Peterson.
Yeah, I don't hate it. This was my favorite game for offense on Tuesday night. It's off to a strong start. We're hoping we're keeping going. Over 9 in this game. In that game was my bet of the night last night. But the pitchers are a lot better here. And the other thing is they both throw with their right hand. We talked on yesterday's podcast a ton about how both of these teams were really good against lefties and not so good at all against righties. So 2 righties on the mound. I have much less interest in this game on Wednesday night than I did on Tuesday night. Soriano, he has electric stuff, and I am rooting for this guy. He came back from a tough injury. He's been really good, but the strikeouts just have not been where you feel like if you look at his minor league numbers and you look at his fastball velocity, it feels like he should be striking out more guys than he has been. He's only at 20.4% on the season. I feel like he should be at least an above average strikeout guy. So Arizona is not a team that strikes out a ton. I do prefer Peterson for a little bit cheaper, but Soriano's in the pool. Arizona been much worse against righties. Soriano's been good at limiting runs. I just wish there was a little bit more strikeouts in the game. Ciccone on the other side against the Angels here.
Yeah, I don't think I can play Ciccone. Just not somebody who's really put it together at all yet. Strikeout rates are, somewhat okay to the righties, but just doesn't strike out anybody from the left-handed side of the plate. And I mean, he's going to throw strikes. He's not going to walk anybody, but he's going to give up a lot of hard contact too. I don't think I can play any Ciccone.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see it as well. The Angels are much worse against righties, but 17% strikeout rate on the season. If they threw like 7 or 8 righties at him, maybe I would reconsider my position on Ciccone. He has struggled tremendously with lefties. He's been pretty good against righties. So I will be keeping an eye on the lineup here, but assuming that the Angels can get at least a little bit left-handed with 3 or more lefties in there against him, I don't have any interest in Ciccone. How about Angels bats against him?
As much as I don't want to play him, I don't really like the bats against him either. It's like you said, they're way better against the lefties. Taylor Ward at 4,500 would be my favorite here. He actually is the one righty bat that is better against righties than he is against lefties. So Taylor Ward would be my first choice. I don't understand why Kevin Pillar has been so good, but even against the righties, he's been fine. And so I think a mini stack is what I'd be more apt to do here. I just can't see myself paying $4,600 for Kevin Pillar. Like, I can do Taylor Ward for $100 cheaper. Like, that is broken. He was in his prime on the Jays, and he was like a $2,400 outfielder.
Yeah, it was funny. Cheese on Crunch Time mentioned that Pillar is suddenly good, and he was never good, even when he was like actually a real major leaguer. Now he gets signed off the scrap heap, and all of a sudden he's hitting with power and not striking out, and it was pretty funny on Crunch Time. I'm right there with you guys. I have no idea.
The thing too is like as a Jays fan, he was fun. He was fun to be around. He'd swing at everything.
His defense is always incredible, but as a hitter,
but you'd think, right? You'd think his defense was incredible because he always just gets these highlight reel catches. But it was actually because he had one of the worst like initial reactions in baseball. So he'd have this terrible initial reaction. He'd have to sprint after the ball, and he'd always get it. But he would just make these somewhat routine plays look difficult and spectacular at the same time. Interesting player. I don't understand what's happening right now, but good for him. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'd be hunting lefties here, and the Angels just don't have a ton of lefty power. I don't mind some shots on Willie Calhoun. It's weird that he's first base eligible only. Because the other guy I have interest would be Shanwell. Like, I don't know. There's not a lot here. Mickey Moniak, if he's in the lineup at 3K, I really want to target lefties here, and the Angels just don't have any ones that I really want to play. So maybe I'm going to be taking a closer look at Ciccone. Just it does seem to be a good matchup for him if the Angels are not able to get left-handed. So I'll play any lefties in there against him. But I don't love the stack. I don't see enough here. Diamondbacks on the other side of this game.
In 150 lineups, I will have some Diamondback stacks because I do think they have the upside, but I don't like them really. Like, I like a Jock Peterson one-off, and that's basically it.
Love the Jock call. That's exactly where I was going as well. Corbin Carroll, I just don't know what to do. Like, the power is non-existent at this point. At least they're hitting him back towards the top of the order, so I don't mind some shots on Corbin Carroll. I hope this guy figures it out because it looked like he was on his way to being one of the best hitters in the majors. Pavin Smith is a cheap guy that I've played a little bit for the Diamondbacks. He's been solid against righties since coming up. It's tough. Like, they're better against lefties, so I prefer to play them against lefties. It's Carroll, Peterson, and maybe a sprig. If Perdomo's in there, I don't hate that. Suarez, you can always play to try to find a home run there. But yeah, I don't love the Arizona stack, but I probably will have some exposure. All right, 2 more games to go here. This next one, we have the White Sox at the Seattle Mariners. Seattle is minus 184 favorites, 7.5 run total in the game. Jonathan Cannon takes the ball for the White Sox. Bryce Miller going for the Mariners. Any interest here in Jonathan Cannon at 6K for the White Sox?
I don't think so, but it is still the Mariners who strike out a ton. I didn't have any interest in this guy originally, thinking he was just like somebody who throws like 60 to 70 pitches all the time. And then I saw 2 games ago, he actually went over 100. And although he gives up a lot of hard hits, he actually has been striking out a ton of lefties. And so I don't know, call me crazy. Is it crazy to have a little interest here in Jonathan Cannon?
I don't think it's crazy at all. I mean, I think you can play any pitcher that's pitching against the Mariners in DFS just because they strike out so much. The pitch count is a little concerning. I'm with you there. Only 60 pitches the last time out against Boston, and I didn't dig in to see if that was an injury where he left early or something like that, or if he didn't give up any runs, so it wasn't performance related. You look at an ERA at 5.94, and it's scary. But digging under the hood, this is kind of the opposite case of Cody Poteet, where Poteet has a really good ERA, but all his underneath stuff looks horrible. Jonathan Cannon is the opposite. 22.4% strikeout rate, 5.3% walk rate is really good. The Sierra is 360. So he has been better than a league average pitcher, according to Sierra, which is one of my favorite ERA estimators. I have interest here in Jonathan Cannon. He has pitched better than his results say that he has, and he has a phenomenal high upside strikeout matchup against Seattle here. So I'm with you. At 6K, between him and Dustin Peterson, I think I'm going to be playing them both, which is odd to say. Leaves me a lot of money for the bats. Makes it really easy to get up to guys like Sonny Gray, and the guy and on the other side of this game, who I have a ton of interest in. I have interest in Jonathan Cannon. I don't think you're crazy at all. How about Bryce Miller against this putrid White Sox offense?
Yeah, I think Miller is probably the best pitcher on the slate, salary considered. I think it's definitely Sonny Gray from a raw points perspective, but I think that $1,000 discount to Bryce Miller, if somebody wanted to play him with a cheap pitcher in cash over Gray, I don't think I would tell them that's a bad thing to do. $9,000 against this White Sox team, I just think is a really nice price tag for him. Hopefully people will look at the game log and see that last game and go, oh, that's terrifying. I don't want to play him. But we've seen the upside this year. It'd be nicer if he would go over 100 pitches, but even so, we're not getting that with Gray either. I think he is probably the 1A with Gray being the 1B due to price.
I might put Gray at 1A, Miller at 1B, but I'm with you that they're both the clear top 2 pitchers on the slate. I don't think that's an argument at all. Miller's upside, I am a little bit concerned about because of the pitch count that you mentioned. He's not quite as the Mariners aren't quite as careful with him as they are with Brian Wu, who got scratched on Tuesday night. Hopefully he's okay. He's going for an MRI, but we know that they've been babying him along. Super talented pitcher. Sure hope that MRI checks out okay for Brian Wu, because he's fun to watch. It's an electric fastball. But Bryce Miller is every bit as talented. Gets the matchup against the White Sox. 9,000 is too cheap. Strikeouts are above average. If we knew we were getting 95 plus pitches, I would agree with you. He's the top pitcher on the slate. Because he's a little bit limited with that pitch count, I would put Sonny Gray at least even with him, but both are incredible. I will be playing both of them as much as I can. How about bats here? Any White Sox against Miller?
No, I don't think that'll be a full fade for me.
I agree. Even if Miller is the highest owned pitcher on the slate, I don't have any interest in finding leverage with White Sox bats. There's just not enough there. Miller's too talented.
And today, Tuesday, as we recorded, I think it was a good leverage stack because you're facing a chalky pitcher who also isn't very good because he's in comparison. But against Bryce Miller, I just don't think the White Sox bats have it.
Yeah, totally agree. How about Mariners bats against Cannon?
No, they're fine. I think they're absolutely fine. They have high upside. They're in the same tier for me so I shouldn't dismiss so quickly. They're in the same tier for me as Arizona. I don't want to play them, but I will still include some stacks in MME. But they're not near the top of my list.
Yeah, similar feeling for me. Like Seattle is often a team that I play. Like I play pitchers against them on every slate, just pretty much, literally every slate. But I also play their bats on a lot of slates too, just because they strike out a ton, but they have a lot of power. JP Crawford back in the lineup. His price is coming up, but he's been leading off at 4K. Cal Raleigh, a guy I love to play for his power at catcher. Luke Raley is a cheap power source that I have played quite a bit as well. Those lefties in particular, I really like. Rojas, his price is coming up a little bit, but he's been really solid this year. I don't know. I like playing this Seattle team. I think their offense is underperforming a little bit. If Julio ever turns it around, this Seattle offense, they might have something there. We know their rotation is electric. Their bullpen's really good. Stevie and I were talking about this Seattle team yesterday, how much talent they have. If their offense can click, they might have something here. But lukewarm interest for me, but I am interested for sure. All right, last game of the night, we have the Texas Rangers at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers are minus 166 favorites in this one. 8.5 is the run total. John Gray going for the Rangers. Walker Buehler on the other side for the Dodgers. Any interest in John Gray against the Dodgers here? 7,700.
I don't think so. It's the Dodgers. He is still having, I think, a few pitch count concerns here. We're not necessarily sure how deep he is going to go. It's the Dodgers. That's basically the main thing. It's the Dodgers. I would rather spend up for Gray or Miller or spend down for Peterson or Cannon. I'll probably avoid this mid-range.
Yeah, I think Gray would be playable if we knew the pitch count was going to be there. But 37 in his last one. Again, a start that he left early. I need to dig in and see exactly what happened there. You know what? That was a relief appearance. They've done this. They did that one other time this season where they brought him out of the bullpen and then he started a few days later. So I think he's full go here. The 75 pitches against Philly is a little bit concerning, but he was over 90 and for several starts in a row after that. I don't know.
The one thing I would say is, so on the 20th of April, he pitched 24 pitches and then he started 4 days later and he pitched 92. This is coming off 37 pitches and I was looking at today's date. I guess it'll still be the same, like 3 nights, 4 days later. So it's short rest, but not fully short rest.
Yeah, but 37 pitches, they're using it as a bullpen pitch, as like a bullpen session between his starts, which is, it's insane. You know what? He came off the IL too. Yeah, you're right. There's definitely pitch count concerns here. I didn't realize that he had not started since May 21st before he pitched June 8th. So yeah, I'm definitely concerned about the leash. All right, I'm out on John Gray. I was gonna try to make a weird case against the Dodgers. I like the strikeouts for Gray. Really tough matchup, but can't do it on a limited pitch count. Walker Buehler on the other side. I owe you an apology for talking you into playing Walker Buehler in his last start. We were on a show together. I don't know what to do with Walker Buehler. The strikeouts just have not come back. They declined all the way into his surgery almost 2 years ago now at this point. The strikeouts have not come back. He's also not been good. He's been getting hit really hard. So you see the name Walker Buehler and the price tag 8,300, and it feels like we should have interest. But I'm here to tell you, TJ, you don't have to play Walker Buehler today.
I'm out. No Walker Buehler. It's the same thing as I said about Gray. It's like I'm going all the way up or I'm going all the way down. I don't think I'm going to go very much that mid-range today. This is beside the point, but I can't help bring it up anyways. The Toronto Blue Jays are now, after tonight's win, they are 32-34. What do you think the Blue Jays record is when they score at least 33-34? What do you think the Blue Jays record is when they score at least 3 runs this year?
They haven't, I don't know how many times they've scored 3 runs. Probably not very many, but I'll go like 20-10.
32-10. They have lost one game this entire season that they have scored more than 3 runs. That is nuts.
Yeah. That's surprising.
That's
like
1 in 24 when they score less than 3, and they are 32 and 10 when they score more than 3. That is just ridiculous. Hit the damn ball. Texas bats against
3 runs is not a big ass.
That's not much. Like, it's not like that's 6 runs, Anyways, Texas bats against Walker Buehler. I do have some interest here. Not a ton, but kind of in that same range as, say, maybe Seattle. Tier 2 to 3 stack for me today. They don't come anywhere close to the Yankees, but they're a heck of a lot higher than some of the lower teams as well.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what's going on with Buehler. So, and I like the talent on the Texas offense. I know they haven't been as good as we expected them to be this year, but I still have interest here. Like Seager and Simeon, you can play against anybody. I don't know if I'm stacking against Buehler. I probably should, just because he's having a tough time figuring it out right now. Adolis Garcia is somebody who you can play at any point as well. Nate Lowe is still cheap. Josh Smith has been sneaky good. Seems like a weird price tag at 4,100 for him, but he's been worth it. I don't mind the Texas stack. Just keep hoping that Buehler is not quite right and stack them up. Dodgers on the other side, I think you got to have interest in them on every slate. It'd be lefties first for me, but I definitely do have interest in the full stack. Ohtani and Freeman, the clear standouts here.
Yeah, exactly like you said. Those guys are the clear standouts. Ohtani, I think, is the next best play on the slate behind Aaron Judge. Not like John Gray's typically not a pitcher we love targeting people against, but he really struggled against lefties last year, giving up a 57% hard hit rate to them so far this year. He's a good ground ball guy, but the Dodgers' almost entire lineup, other than their bottom guys, doesn't really hit ground balls. So I feel like they've really let me down anytime I try and stack them this year, but they are still one of the top stacks on the board.
Yep, absolutely. You gotta spend up for them, and when there's 10K pitching on the slate, it can be really challenging. I do think we have a couple 6K options that are pretty decent here, so should be able to get up to them easy enough. But that'll wrap it up for the 8-game slate. Let's go ahead and play the morning grind game. Give me a pitcher under 8,000 to record at least 6 strikeouts.
I will go with, sorry, I'm just resetting here to the entire pool. Sorry, what was it? Which I missed the first one that you asked.
Pitcher under 8K for 6 strikeouts.
Let's go crazy, and we're gonna go with Mr. Cannon, Jonathan Cannon.
You stole my guy. I like that call. I really do think Cannon has pitched a lot better than what his numbers say this season. The strikeouts are almost league average, and he gets the best strikeout matchup in baseball. So love that call. I'm going to have some Cannon as well. It gets pretty dicey from here. If Gray weren't on a pitch count, I would think he could still strike out a few Dodgers, but given he's limited, I won't go there. Don't love Garrett in a low strikeout matchup. Man, it gets a little dicey. I guess I'll go Soriano just by default. I don't love the matchup for him either against Arizona, who's a high contact team. But like I said, electric stuff from Soriano. I expect him to be able to rack up more than 20% strikeouts going forward. How about a pitcher over 8K to score less than 15 DK points?
Walker Buehler.
That is the obvious answer there. I actually like every other pitcher on the slate above 8,300 where Buehler is at. And I like Christopher Sanchez as well, who's right at 8K. I think just of the guys listed here, I have to go with Sanchez. Lodolo all the way near the top would probably be my next option. I like everybody else. So I will not play a ton of Lodolo, I don't think, but Sanchez would be my bet to stay under 15. How about a hitter over 4,000 in salary to go yard? Who's hitting a home run today?
Homer today. Let us go with, obviously, I don't want to pick Judge, so I'll pick his friend, Giancarlo Stanton.
No way.
I picked this again.
You did it to me again, man.
3 in a row, baby.
I thought I was going to be sneaky and say the exact same thing. Love Stanton against lefties. I know he hasn't been as good. Man, all right. I'm sticking with Yankees just because it's such a good spot for them. And I'm not going to the obvious one at the top. Give me Gleyber Torres to get it done. Love that call on Stanton, though. I was right there with you. How about a hitter under 4,000 to get 2 hits?
Think about it because I want to sweep the board here and go exclusively the ones you were picking. So I need to get into your mind. It's a risk because you said you liked it when I brought it up. And so I don't know if they were initially on your mind, but I'm going to go MJ Melendez.
I like that call. That's not who I have written down. But I do like Royals a decent amount. I actually have DJ LeMahieu here.
Okay.
Not a guy I love to play in DFS, but a really solid hitter. And in a lineup this potent around him, he's cheap enough where I'll play a little bit in Yankee stacks. But love DJ LeMahieu. He's only 3,300.
I was choosing between Melendez and Nate Lowe, so I wouldn't have got it.
Too bad. Can only steal 2 of my answers on this. 3 of my answers on this one. All right. Stack to score 6 or more runs.
Yankees.
I bet you can get this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Yankees are the obvious one. That was my clear first choice. I like the other side of the game just as much, or nearly as much, I should say. Probably not just as much, but nearly as much. I think Kansas City's in a really good spot here against Cody Poteet. I will take the Royals. Any prop bets or player pick'ems that were standing out? I did not even see what was available here yet. So let me do a quick refresh. Were you able to find anything?
Not a proper pick'em, but an early line. I don't think Arizona should be favored so heavily. I think the Angels as underdogs against them with Soriano going against Ciccone, I like, or maybe even like Angels first 5 innings type of line. Looking at prize picks here, all they have up is hitter fantasy score and pitcher strikeouts. So nothing else up here early yet. But I mean, even though it's high, Aaron Judge over 10, I don't mind. And then the only pitcher strikeouts they have up are Jake Irvin and Reese Olson. So yeah, not much up yet.
I just refreshed DraftKings Sportsbook here, and there are actually a couple of interesting ones that are hanging out there. We've got Tanner Bybee at 6.5 strikeouts with plus money on the over. I think I like that. I'm going to have to dig into it a little bit more when I get off the show, but don't be surprised if you see that one on Scores and Odds tomorrow. Sonny Gray at 6.5 strikeouts against the Pittsburgh Pirates, minus 135 on the juice. I think I like that one too. Both of those are really interesting to me. I will dig in a little bit deeper once we get off the show here, but keeping my eye on those. You gave out your money line bet or first 5 money line bet already. I had one that I thought was pretty interesting as well. The Cleveland Cincinnati game is virtually a pick'em. Cleveland is minus 104. I like the Guardians on the money line here. Lodolo is solid. Don't get me wrong. I think the Guardians are a better offense. I think both pitchers are really talented, and I think the Guardians have the better bullpen as well. So give me the road Guardians there at minus 104 against the Reds. Anything else that you found interesting out there?
Nope. That is about it.
All right. Fun little 8-game slate here for Wednesday. Appreciate everyone joining us here for the morning grind. Again, I'll be filling in for Stevie for the remainder of the week. I believe it is Tasteful Tides, Tim, that is with me here tomorrow, but we appreciate everyone joining us, and good luck out there on Wednesday.